Good evening, and welcome to the West Orange Board of Education Public Board meeting on Thursday, March 26, 2026. I'd like to thank all of you here in person and those watching from home for joining us tonight. I'd like to welcome my fellow board members, as well as Mr. Moore and Ms. Flowers, and our student liaisons. Ms. Flowers, would you please take the roll call?
Good evening. Roll call, please. Dr. Bryant. Mr. Ifker.
Here.
Mr. Stevenson.
Here.
Ms. Vera. Mr. Rock.
Here.
Notice of meeting. The New Jersey Open Publics Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests are discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, a written notice was sent from the Office of the Secretary of the Board on March 4th, 2026. That said notice was sent by regular mail to the West Orange Township Clerk and the editors of West Orange Chronicle and by email to the Star Ledger. That said notice was posted in the lobby of the Administration Building of the Board of Education and posted on the district website. Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and may be broadcasted on local TV and the district's website at a future date. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Flowers. In consideration of the closed and public meetings of March 5th, 2026, do I have a motion to accept these minutes?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ifker. Any comments? Hearing none, Ms. Flowers, please take the roll call.
Mr. Ifker.
Yes. I hear. Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
And President Rock.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next up, good evening to our student liaisons, Adam Barakat and Nefertari James. Would you two please share your student liaison report with us?
Good evening, everyone. So to start, we're going to talk about academic and student achievements. Hazel Elementary students won first place in the knowledge assessment category at NJIT STEM competition. West Orange student took top investment $1,300 at Team Social Entrepreneur, like a Shark Tank event. West Orange seniors were honored at the Mayor State of Township Breakfast. Our valedictorian Josie Mayer, salutatorian Ava Naratek, and additional honorees were Violet Colstein, Caleb Bond, Adam Bearcat, Emil Conning, Ava DeBarros, David Milstein, Marcel Girl, and Cormac O'Gummer. Moving on, we're going to talk about awards and recognition. Julian LaFormat recognized as a USUN hero by NJSB Essex County. West Orange nurse Tahira Hill received the NJSS NA Rising Star Award. And our wind ensemble received gold rating at the annual Region 1 Festival. And our woodwind ensemble also earned an outstanding musicianship award. Next, we'll talk about art events and activities. So our West Orange High School students, including ROTC, marching band, cheer, myself, along with Mr. Moore and Mr. Guerrero, and the board president, Brian Rock, participated in the 73rd annual St. Patrick's Parade. And Cinderella, the spring musical production, runs from April 17th to April 19th. All tickets are $15. Please go to www.warble.org/Cinderella for tickets and info.
Moving on to some more community announcements. Hazel Elementary School hosted guest readers with some including the West Orange mayor, authors, nurses, first responders, and others. NY Sirens visited Redwood Elementary School for Women's History Month recently. Aaron Feeney represented Capitol Hill for West Orange recently as well. Moving on to awareness and inclusion, West Orange High School Color Guard celebrated Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month at Redwood Elementary by performing with the adaptive color guard that includes students with all abilities. The spring season has officially started. The fields are full of sports in full swing. We are excited to see how they all do this season. Congratulations to Rhea Randolph for being the SEC Girls Indoor Track Athlete of the Year for 2026. Another congratulations for both the girls basketball and wrestling teams conference recognition. An additional announcement is that the football field here in West Orange is being done, the turf, and it's being replaced for free due to our warranty. And to finish off for announcements, spring break is coming up. It's exciting. And we have a all meet half day scheduled this Monday to make up for a youth snow day. So spring break officially begins on Tuesday, March 31st, and we return to school on Monday, April 6th.
All right. Thank you both for that. Mr. Moore, it's now time for your report. Would you please share your superintendent's report with us?
Thank you. President Roth, tonight for my report, we'll be presenting our 26-27 preliminary budget presentation. I will be at the podium joined by our business administrator, Miss Tanya Flowers. Before we go, I'm sure people have a little bit of an idea that we face some unprecedented challenges. I'm sure everyone has their opinion on how things should work, not work, or do work or not work. But I will say a few things that I think I'd like to address. Everyone here is giving a genuine effort. All people in administration is giving a genuine effort. Nothing is pretend. Everything is not just vetted, looked upon. We send it to the attorneys. We make sure that we're in line. So please, I don't have a problem with questioning and thinking you know, whether you know something or you don't know something, but speak from that perspective, because it's very hard to stress over such a challenge that we've inherited and try to work through that challenge without people understanding how much of a toll that takes on the people here working on that challenge. We've had workshops. No one has a genius answer. So don't think you do, because you haven't. I'm working with other superintendents, other people, other groups. So just understand that this is a challenge that is not one that is easy. It is one that does take quite an effort from everyone up here. So words like hiding, transparency, pretending, you can look anywhere you want. Nothing like that occurs with this board. This board is upstanding. The people up here are upstanding. I just want to clarify before we get started. And you will know why numbers change or numbers go, but I think it's best that us as a community come to a realization that we're in a bad spot and we have to figure it out. And just using inflammatory terms or, you know, not accurate information, it's not going to make it any better. We're going to have to deal with it. Myself as the superintendent is the steward of the ship. I accept that. I accept this inheriting such a challenge. I have a great administrative team when I tell you that. They're very thorough. And we'll do the best we can, our level best, to try to balance this budget, but not just for today, but for the future of West Orange. I feel very good about what we're going to present. Unfortunately, it's not going to be great news. But I know that it is been what we present is vetted. We're still working on it. There's no exact answer. It's called a preliminary budget. But we're not going to hold back and give you some false situation or some hope in which we cannot provide. We've been through this for the last 2 years, going on 3 years, and we've tried many different areas, as I sent out in my letter, where to cut, where we can get savings. So I have no issue with questions. I just would like people to understand that myself, plus the people up here, are having many sleepless nights trying to figure out how we can do this. And of course, first, to make sure we have the quality student experience, quality family experience, as we, the taxpayers that live here, pay for the education system, quality staff. We are working towards all of it, and we'll deliver and we're committed to giving our level best. And just for all parents, whether you're a parent in a group or you're an individual parent, you will be heard the same. That's why there's a survey. Write down your information. It's longer than 3 minutes. You can write it down. We'll read it. We'll look at it. We'll consider it. Does not mean it'll go your way, even if you're advocating for it. That's the way that, unfortunately, situations like this happen. Everyone sacrifices, not just some. We all sacrifice. And believe me, it is a sacrifice to inherit such a challenge. So I just want to lay that out because I think it's the right move right now so that everyone understands we all want to respect each other in the room. But I want to make sure that the people that are up here, I wanted to make sure and speak on their behalf and to speak for my administrative team in central office as when they read comments and hear certain insults, that I want them to know that I have your back, you're doing the right thing, and we're going to work from the same place we are always working from. So feel free. We'll answer your questions. May not be what you love, may not be what you want to hear, but we'll answer them honestly. And that's the way we are going to move forward as we try to take West Orange to another level and hopefully a sustainable level for our children, not just today, but beyond. Thank you. So President Rock, if you would allow me, and the board would take seats there, Tanya would join me at the podium. We'll begin our presentation. I think we'll answer a few questions there. And then when you have public comment, feel free to ask questions.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone again. Thank you to Superintendent Moore and to the board. I will be presenting the fiscal reality of West Orange Public Schools, as this is our 2026 and 2027 preliminary budget diagnostic. Again, we do have our 3 board members in the room right now, but I do want to thank our entire board team. As Superintendent Moore has already stated, this has been many, many meetings, and we've been working on this budget diligently. So I do want to thank our board members as well as the entire administrative team. And again, I do want to thank my business office team as well, as we've been spending a lot of time together lately. So to understand our budget, we must understand our scale. We serve over 7,100 students across 13 different facilities. This includes our high school with over 2,000 students and our varied elementary and middle school population. These enrollment figures are primary drivers of our staffing needs and operational cost. This slide presents a critical snapshot of our projected finances for the 26-27 school year. Please note that these figures are preliminary and remain subject to change. We anticipate revenues, even with a 2.5% tax levy increase, to be approximately $206 million. Our projected expenditures, driven by mandated operational costs, are approximately $220 million. It's important to note that these numbers, for those of you that have attended the information sessions, we were projecting back in January around a $12 million deficit. However, in January, the data that we were using was from November reports. So that's why, and even in those sessions, we were expressing that this was a scenario and that the data did not include any additional costs in terms of 2026, 27, but it was just everything remaining flat. And we had the data at the time as of November. So that's why now we're seeing that this number has changed. Now we're looking at a $14 to $15 million structural deficit, and that gap cannot be bridged by standard revenue streams. So addressing the West Orange fiscal reality requires a difficult balancing act. Our commitment is to close this gap while minimizing the impact on our students, but doing so requires district-wide reductions, including staff and program adjustments. In looking at this slide, you'll see on the left-hand side, we have the revenue ceiling, because we know that our income has basically a legal speed limit, right? It can only go up but so high. There's a ceiling based on the legal constrained tax levy cap. There are some allowable adjustments that we may, as a district, be eligible for, but it's limitations there. Then we have our state aid, which is the growth is entirely dependent on state formulas, and state aid is just out of the district's control. With that said, if we look at the upward pressure that we're dealing with, right, we have some primary budget drivers where we have salaries that are budgeted to increase between 3% and 4%. Those are contractually mandated. Health benefits are budgeted for a significant increase of 17.8%. And we are part of a school health insurance fund. And in consultation with our broker, this rate is at the lower end of the range compared to other similar plans. We have explored other options, and we remain satisfied with our current offerings, which will be the subject of a future board meeting. We do have our brokers coming in to do a formal presentation, but we have already explored other options, and where we stand now with the school health insurance fund is satisfactory, and it is definitely a better position for us compared to other plans. We have special education tuition costs for out-of-district placements. It's expected to increase by 6%, and district insurance is projected to increase by 8%. Transportation costs are increasing by 3.58, which is based upon the Consumer Price Index. These are all required costs of operating the district, and their increases consistently outpace our available revenue, making the structural budget deficit unavoidable. How is a structural budget deficit, how is it formed? It isn't caused by a once-in-a-decade incident. It is caused when legally mandated expenses consistently exceed the capped revenue. So we have fixed costs like special education, healthcare costs, and insurance that increase at market rates. We have state law caps that caps the primary revenue source, which is our tax levy. And we have available surplus funds that are exhausted from time to time to plug in gaps, but then it removes our safety net in the current year or future years. And then we have a compounding mathematical difference between approximately 15% cost increase and 2% revenue limits. So that gap just continues to widen. In this slide, we're providing a pie graph just to see and visualize the pressure points. As you can see here, the salaries and benefits combined are almost 70% of our budget. So while salaries make up half of the budget, the deficit is still driven by other exploding costs. And again, you see healthcare being one of them. And we even had a significant cost in facilities, custodial, and security costs, operating costs. So where did the new money go? That's been the question. So the 6.3 million total new revenue that we expected, in just looking at the increase in the benefits alone, that was an increase of $4.9 million. Increase in custodial maintenance and security operating costs was an increase of $5 million. And an increase in the special ed tuition alone was an increase of 1.8 million. So the $6.3 million in new revenue is entirely consumed before we even account for mandatory salary increases, transportation, or educational program. So we are mathematically in the red before the school year even begins. This slide begins our comparison again of revenues, providing essential context for the financial decisions that we face. As you see, as we saw on the previous slide, our projected total revenues for 26-27 school year is proposed even with a 2.5% tax levy increase to be approximately 206 million. This comparison is critical to illustrating the gap between our revenue growth and our mandated expenditure increases. The key takeaway from this comparison is to visibly reinforce the reality that our revenue growth remains limited, especially by the 2% tax levy cap, while our primary operational cost, as outlined in the prior slide, and I'll give you more details going forward, but this is the structural issue. It is directly impacting us this year, where we are looking at approximately $14 to $15 million, as we discussed. So there are some tough decisions ahead. You want to go into it? Or you want me to take it?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I wanted to comment here. If you take a look at this slide, of course, we put in red because we're looking at it from what we've gathered thus far. There's still work to be done, but it's a minimum of 70 full-time employees, and we have not balanced the budget yet. This is not easy. Of course, we're doing things which we don't want to do, but have to look at. We have to consolidate the courses. I know that people were asking, are you doing that? Yeah, we're doing that, of course. We have to increase class sizes. Again, not something we're wanting to do, but we will have to do. We have to look at our schedule in the middle school one more time. Not changing it drastically or making people go through hoops, but we have to look at it as far as efficiencies are concerned. We've already started not replacing administrators that have retired. And I can tell you now, and I won't mention the district, but you can count our central office and what we have in terms of administration and administrators. And I can tell you we have way less than smaller districts than us because we have not replaced them. We continue to just try to add work where we can. But we're showing you, even in this, we'll continue to do that and do our part to try to balance the budget. We're going to work with transportation, and we're looking at it. Of course, we talk about courtesy busing. I know people have suggested subscription busing and pay-to-play sort of situations. I've been in West Orange 30 years. It is a very diverse community in many different ways, including socioeconomic. And as the superintendent, one thing you can expect from me, and you can put it on my tombstone, I believe in equity. And equity, to me, is very hard to accomplish when you start getting into areas like, I don't know if people agree with me on that or not, but that's the way I feel. I feel that West Orange offers students opportunities they may not have gotten if they lived somewhere else. And I think that that's part of the richness of this community and would love to maintain that for the student experience. So when we look at transportation, no, right now, we're not thinking subscription busing. We're not thinking of doing anything like that where we charge parents more. But we are looking to see what other routes we can scale down. Where can we save money there? If you remember, prior to, every time we do a budget presentation, it tells a story. If you remember the budget before, we took as much out as we possibly could out of transportation to make sure we have our teachers forward facing in the classrooms. That's not a myth. That's not a guess. That's a fact. That's what we did. And people know that. But we have scraped and scraped, and we're taking as many things as we possibly can. We're always looking out. We understand that we want our teachers to work here. We don't want to lose them like anyone else. But we're at a point where we have to understand that the reality is hit and this becomes a mathematical equation. And we have to face that. So yeah, we're going to explore it. And exploration of outsourcing essential services. Again, not something we want to do. We love having our people to ourselves, but anywhere we have to look for savings, we will. And that is because, once again, it will always start with trying to make sure that we protect the student experience and the family experience that live in our town, try to preserve what we have, and of course, making sure that it's a quality place for our teachers as well. Thank you.
So how do we balance the scales for West Orange? The numbers dictate our current reality, but our commitment remains to the 7,100 plus students relying on us. We are taking these severe, necessary steps today to ensure the financial survival and future stability of West Orange Public Schools. We are going to look at the numbers. And this right now is the balanced budget that we're submitting. It's a preliminary budget that we are submitting for approval by the board and then going to the county for approval, but it is a preliminary budget. So here you will have is a detailed breakdown showing the comparison of the revenue slide, comparing the major sources, specifically the local tax levy, state aid, and other miscellaneous revenues. This revenue includes 2.5% tax levy. This is our breakdown of the expenditure slide. This slide outlines our proposed expenditures for 26-27 compared to the current year. And again, upon recommendation by the Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Hayden Moore, this proposed preliminary budget is being submitted and presented this evening for the county to approve, with a general fund total of $206,821,351. For our community, this budget translates to an annual tax increase of $294 approximately, and $24.50 per month for the average assessed home. So tonight, again, this is our tentative budget presentation, and then we have to submit it for county approval. They have until by April 20th, we will hear whether or not our preliminary budget has been approved, and then we can advertise it. It's required that we advertise it in a newspaper. And then our public hearing is scheduled for May 4th at 6:30 p.m. Again, the meeting will be here in the Library and Media Center. That completes our presentation. And we will ask the board members to please return back to the dais so that we can take any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Stevenson, do you have any questions for the administration?
Thank you, President Rock. Thank you, Superintendent Moore. Ms. Flowers, in your role as business administrator and secretary to the board. Appreciate the work of you and the assistant business administrator, Ms. Lampkin, and your entire team in putting these numbers together. It's a stark reality, but not a surprising reality, right? These are similar conversations that have been had over the last few years. So I just got a couple of questions. You talked about 6.3 million in total new revenue expected. Where does that 6.3 million come from?
That was an increase in our state aid, plus the tax levy.
So,
Overall.
so the increase in state aid from 24-25
Right, plus
plus,
the tax levy of 2.5% that we're recommending for proposal this evening.
okay. Want to say a couple of things before I go back to some more questions. I want to say, Mr. Moore, thank you for your opening comments about the work that your staff has put in. And it is unfortunate if there's some members of the public who may have made some untoward and unnecessary comments towards you or your staff, or if to some board members. Hopefully, despite these very bad numbers, everyone can maintain a sense of decorum and respect for the work that your team has put in. The board members signed up for it, got elected by the people. And so, you know, this is the harsh reality. The district is gracious enough to buy us dinner or provide dinner every month when we meet. So, you know, we get compensated through food. So we appreciate that. So your comments are well appreciated. Just on a couple of things, other things you said, you talked about parents paying more in terms of, you know, pay to play or kicking in more funds for transportation. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think it's a shame that you even have to say that. The taxpayers of West Orange, for the years that I've been on the board and preceding that, have continually kicked in taxes year after year. The reason I asked the question of Ms. Flowers about the anticipated revenue increase, because it always appears as if it's a forlorn conclusion that this board, any board, will automatically raise the taxes on its residents. And I think that is an unfortunate reality, that we come into these things every year saying it's a given. We're going to raise taxes on the people. And for those of you who are homeowners in West Orange, you will know that assessed values in West Orange increased significantly in the last year, almost doubled. And so a tax levy of 2.5% is not an insignificant thing this year. And so, Mr. Moore, I don't think you should have to justify the distribution of equitable services to families in our community when they are forever contributing to the operational capacity and, as it used to be, the operational ambition of the district. We're no longer there. We're in a retrenchment stage. And so we have to deal with it as such. You also mentioned your central office staff. And so I will suffix that statement and say, based on the research I've done, there is no comparable school district in Essex County of the size of West Orange that has a central office smaller than yours. Your central office is one of the leanest central offices in all of Essex County, and probably, if not in the state, of a comparable size. And I do think, regardless of those necessary cuts, you do have to operate with an effective and efficient central office so that things like accountability, things in terms of assessment, things of tabulation of data, all of those things are critical to ensure that students and families are receiving a high quality education that they deserve, or as the state says, a thorough and efficient education, although that's not fully defined within state statute what that means. So this is a reality of where we are. We were here last year. And I would just say my closing comments, and I'll defer to Mr. Ruck and to Mr. Ifker. I may have additional comments or questions at a later point. But you have through your various assessments by the staff, found the cuts to balance this year's budget. But this is not solely a this year problem, as it was not solely a this year's problem last year. And so the reality is, we talk about strategic plans and we talk about looking forward 5 years or however many years we want to look forward. I think it is insufficient. This is what we do, what school districts throughout New Jersey do. We, wait on the state aid money to come. We either celebrate or don't celebrate if it's not what we want it to be. We say, wow, we got it. We're going to balance the budget. And then 10 months later, we're in the same predictable position that we were in 10 months earlier. So I would suggest to you, Superintendent Moore, and to your team, although you have found or are looking for the necessary cuts to balance this $206 million for this year, inevitably you'll have a structural deficit next year. Inevitably, you're going to have a structural deficit in 28, 29, in 29, 30, and so forth and so on, unless there is some substantial or material change in the way that local school districts are able to tax, in the way the state is able to distribute funds from the Department of Education, or districts like West Orange, and as I'm sure seen in the press, like many other districts throughout the state, are having to make some hard decisions about closing schools, cutting staff, reducing programs. And that is the reality. And so I don't look at this, I can't look at this as a taxpayer in this community, as a father of 2 children enrolled in our schools. I can't look at this situation purely as a 1-year situation and say this settles the matter. It doesn't settle the matter, at least not for me. And so I would just encourage you in a more long-range situation and think about how do we begin to transform schools, reimagine schools, look at additional cuts, look at additional consolidations so that the taxpayers can understand the type of school district moving forward that they really can't afford given the constraints of what our ability is to tax the citizens of West Orange.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Mr. Rifford, do you have any? Nope. Okay. One quick clarifying question. I'd asked you this earlier, just want to point it out for the public. When you say custodial maintenance and security costs went up about 36%, that's not referring to staffing levels in those areas. That's for like the physical maintenance of the buildings and those kinds of projects, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. No, I mean, no, it's fine. Yeah, that was my only question. I think Mr. Stevenson went on for long enough about the generalities. So I'll just add a couple quick comments. Thank you, Mr. Moore, Ms. Flowers, Ms. Lampkin, for your work on this. It has been a tough couple of weeks. I've been in meetings with you. I know your staff has been in meetings with you, and there are no easy or good answers to any of these problems. As Mr. Stevenson pointed out, these are not problems unique to us, to West Orange. Health benefits in particular, as well as many of these other costs, are hitting other districts around the state. And when you look at the impact that you presented as possible cuts, while it's not something that we want to see or that we would necessarily think is a good or perfect solution, it's better than the alternative happening in other places. Right? Mr. Stevenson, I think, referenced some places that are closing schools, some places that are closing down athletic programs. So to the extent that we can do the same or similar with less, I applaud your effort for continuing to find ways to do that. I know it's tough, and at some point we won't be able to do that anymore. But until then, we have to take a look at this 1 year at a time. We do have to plan for long term, but we can't predict or change the future. So we have to balance this budget the best we can, deal with next year's budget when it comes, and hope that we put ourselves on a better footing next year. But some of these are still going to be outside of our control. And so on the flip side, we have to continue to advocate for solutions beyond West Orange, because these are not solutions that we can fix, right? Health benefits is a state and national problem. And at some point, someone has to solve or address the issue of why that's going up so much. special ed costs are increasing at a rapid rate, and that either needs to be addressed statewide through some kind of cost capping measures or push those costs off on the state. But right, our income is always, our revenue is always going to be capped unless there's some other kind of federal funding that comes through, some new stream of state funding. And the other issue, right, we're talking about maintenance going up. If the state were to fully fund the construction of schools, the fixing of schools, that would be something else to alleviate some of these pressures. But until then, you know, we have to provide that thorough and efficient education. We have that responsibility under the state constitution. We have a limited amount of money with which to do that. And so for the next school year, we have to make do with what we have. And so, again, thank you for your work on this. Can't say that I am pleased with the budget, but I do think it is the best you can do in a bad situation. And I'm pleased with your work and your efforts to get us to this point. So thank you very much.
For the record, can I just ask you for a point of clarification when you say you're not pleased with the budget? Can you expound upon that, please?
I'm not pleased with the negative impacts on the educational program in West Orange.
Okay.
So again, I'm pleased with the work that went into it. I think it is the best thing that we can do today, given the constraints that we face. So it's not that I'm displeased with the product or the work that went into it, but rather the situation that we face.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah. Well, let me just add this. So if I had an extra $10 million, I would make a very different budget, or 15 million, because that's what we're missing. So maybe that's clarification for why I'm displeased with it.
Well, and I think that's the point, though. If you had extra $15 million, that covers it this year, doesn't cover it next year. And so we can probably take this presentation and change the dates, but the figures remain the same, if not increased by whatever the structural deficit was from last year to this year. Plug those numbers in and we find ourselves next year in the same situation. And so obviously we balance budgets year to year, but I think it's important for the community to know what the trajectory of this is, right? What the trajectory of having to look at a restructuring of schools. And while I appreciate and did note it myself, that other communities are facing greater challenges than we, our challenges are our own. And we have to face them head on with a certain level of intentionality that primarily serves our first constituency, which are the students enrolled in our schools and their families, and then our taxpayers. And we're going to continue to ask the taxpayers to kick in the 2%, it seems, year after year. The revenue will never get to the point of where our ability to tax the citizens are. And we, like every other school district in the state, you know, waits patiently, like buying a lottery ticket, to figure out what money we're going to get from the state and whether it's going to be up this year or down the next. And unfortunately, that is not the way this should occur. And it's unfortunate that we and other school districts find ourselves in that. I just want to impress upon again, the reality is we balance the budget this year. The truth is we find ourselves in a perpetual debt situation moving forward for a foreseeable future that is not easily corrected.
Thank you. I think we'll save any further comment on this for resolutions later. But thank you again, Mr. Moore, for your presentation. Was there anything else to your superintendent's report?
Actually, yes. Hang on a second.
Okay.
At this time, we had two incidents investigated for HIB throughout the district. Neither were founded to fit the criteria.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Do we have any committee reports from the board?
No report.
Anything, Mr. Ripper? Thank you. I'll share a brief president's report with you now. West Orange High School hosted a career in healthcare symposium today that included several accomplished professionals. The event was attended by our high school students from Institute of Mathematics and Science. our National Honor Society of Black Engineers, and students from our high school health science classes. Professionals who attended and spoke with our students include Dr. Sherry Lawson, MD, West Orange High School Hall of Famer and current chair of OBGYN at Howard Medical School. Dr. Melissa Grigsby, MD, assistant professor in the Department of Surgery, Trauma and Surgical Critical Care at Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School, and Ashley Sevo, our very own West Orange High School athletic trainer. All right. The next item on the agenda is the second reading and adoption of policy 2460, special education. This policy has been reviewed and revised by administration and presented this evening for second reading and adoption. May I have a motion to approve policy 2460, special education?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ifker. Any discussion?
As has been mentioned before, the district is constantly reviewing policies and make sure that they are best serving our community. There are a number of policies that went through first reading at the last meeting. And President Rock, it's my recommendation to the board that the resolutions tonight be adopted for those policy changes.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Hearing none, nothing else. Ms. Flowers, please take the roll call.
Mr. Ifker,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
President Rock.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next we will have questions from the public on agenda items only. Any community member who would like to make comments or ask questions, please come to the podium at this time. Please state your name and home address for the record, then begin your comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any members of the public here in the audience tonight who wish to make a public comment?
Not as tall as you, Hayden. Josh Goldfarb, 10 Nance Road, president of the WOEA. Members of the board and community, did you know that 20% of our school employees also live in town? That is worth repeating. 20%, 1 out of every 5 employees lives here and pays taxes here. We are acutely aware of all of the wonderful things this town has to offer. And we're aware that that comes at a price. West Orange is not exactly a cheap place to live, but it's worth it. And any real estate agent will tell you one of the jewels in West Orange proverbial crown is our top-notch schools. And we want to keep it that way. We want to make sure our schools remain a reason that people move to West Orange and raise their children here. But budgets are made and money does not grow on trees. Districts all over the state are continuing to suffer under the unjust state funding formula. It's my understanding that President Rock petitioned the state on our behalf to have this formula changed. And I thank you for that. I think we all do. But in its infinite wisdom, the state of New Jersey has decided to once again provide an inadequate amount of funding to our town. This shortchanges all of us, not just educators, administrators, and support staff, but parents, guardians, community members, and most critically, our students. This means that once again, we're looking down the barrel of a deficit that exceeds $14 million. So the question is, how do we close that gap? Teachers and staff have been told that class size in the elementary schools should expect to increase to approximately 25 per class. At the middle and high schools, we are expecting average class sizes to balloon to 25 to 30 students per class. It becomes increasingly difficult to maintain our level of instruction with class sizes that large. That's not my opinion. A 2024 study conducted by the NIH, the National Institute of Health, determined that increases in class sizes are associated with unpredictability and decreased school readiness. It also concluded that teachers in smaller class sizes are better at using a variety of instructional strategies, accommodating different learning modalities and creating dynamic and interesting learning environments. Furthermore, since there are fewer students to watch in a classroom management is easier, which reduces disturbances and improves student learning. I'm not here to lambast anybody. You guys have choices to make, and I don't envy them. But I am here to urge the board and the community, before any changes are made inside the classroom, please look outside the classroom for cost savings. And I know you're looking everywhere. I know you're looking everywhere. Last year, with the support of Superintendent Moore, the WOEA surveyed our members and asked them where they saw areas for possible savings. A summary of those ideas were emailed to everyone on the board. These are ideas from those of us working with the students on a daily basis. And we may see areas of savings that others, just by the nature of their roles, might not see. Some of the ideas may not be feasible, but we once again ask that they be considered and reviewed. And remember, 20 of them are also community members and are paying those taxes. Budget cuts, going to be unavoidable.
Thank you, Mr. Goldfarb here.
But where cuts are made, we implore you to be judicious and cautious.
Thank you,
Use
Mr.
a
Goldfarb.
scalpel,
Time is
not a
up.
battle axe.
Sorry, I hadn't planned on speaking tonight, so I understand the constraints. I've sat on the Board of Ed. I've watched, oh, sorry, Deb Cohen, 4 White Street,
Thank you.
Madison, teacher at West Orange High School for West Orange for 26 years. I get it. And I know you are looking at every area that you can, but the lack of detail that was just presented is astonishing. Is the one slide showing 70 full-time employees and a few other items the only things that are being looked at? The email that Hayden, which was greatly appreciated, sent out on Monday to give us kind of a kind of look of the land, made it appear like there was going to be significant transparency, even ending with, we are looking at our athletic and fine and performing arts programs to examine ways to reduce costs with minimal impact on the student experience. What does that mean? Everybody was expecting something tonight that might indicate, is that plays and musicals? Is that drama clubs? Is that co-curricular? Nobody knows what that means. The buildings are full of teachers, pairs, guidance, CST, administrative assistants, media coordinators, and everybody else who are all completely stressed out because we don't know what's coming. Is there a breakdown, realizing it could change, of staff versus teachers versus support staff? I know it's a long-term issue and it's only going to get worse with the tier 5 teachers that are here for 30 years and 65 years old at the top of the guide. But the reality is there has been more transparency, in my opinion, but not as much as there could be. Every department has been told that classes without 20 students in them will not run. Does that include AP? We have no idea. It also was going to cause a ripple effect for upper level courses. If you run 3 sections of intro instead of 4, it's less students who are eligible to take level 2, 3, or AP courses, which ultimately creates those courses to go away. I did run several numbers. I spent 4 hours. I see the deficits, the extended, the extraordinary school, special education aid. I ran them all. I see that. I get it. I understand. And a lot of people don't know about that. But I did run one particular set of numbers just for comparison. So at the high school, middle schools, and elementary schools, there are a total of 142 clubs and activities according to the contract. Total for all of that is $511,000 roughly. High school athletics, there are 25 distinct sports, counting boys and girls as separate. Stipends for that are $551,915. Middle school athletics in the past has been $115,000, and now with the changes you made has been cut down to about $56,000. So there has been improvement there. But again, and I think the extracurricular and the athletics are important. It is. That's why some kids come to school. But if we're talking about increasing class sizes to the point where it's harmful to what's happening and what can be done, those things have to be looked at too. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Emily Pease, 8 Harvard Terrace. Good evening. I'm here on behalf of West Orange Parents for Education. I know the last minute nature of the state funding leads to those tight turnarounds, long hours during the budget season. So thank you to the board and administration for your work and likely late nights during this year's budget. I want to start by acknowledging the ways that this process has improved from last year. The addition of the monthly budget sessions was a meaningful step forward. Providing communication about the shortfall in advance of this meeting also helped the community become more prepared, and tonight's presentation was a helpful articulation of the core structural issue we're all facing. These changes, they matter, and they reflect a more transparent and thoughtful approach. And I think it's also fair to say that it's the result of the sustained community engagement and advocacy for this additional communication. That's a positive sign that collaboration between the district and the community can lead to progress, and has. At the same time, as Mr. Moore articulated tonight, we have to be honest about where we are. The financial situation we're facing this year is significantly more severe than last year. And while the process has improved and the approach outlined so far still feels incremental. And there were terms like scraping, trimming, fine tuning. That may have been appropriate the last 2 years, but it doesn't match the scale of the current challenge that we're going to continue to face in the future, as Mr. Stevenson also mentioned. As you know, I've mentioned before, I have young children in the district, and I'm most concerned about the long-term impacts of just whittling down year after year. A structural deficit cannot be solved through incremental adjustments alone. Our community group is actively pushing for those broader structural changes at the state level that we all know we need and we can't change on our own. We are doing that pushing. But we can't rely on that happening in time to address our current immediate needs. And we need to think bigger, more long-term, and act decisively at the local level. This could include exploring one-time capital investments. I know it may take a referendum, but something that could lead to long-term cost savings, such as bringing more of our special education services back in district. So we're not spending so much sending them out to special education schools. Or, doing more partnering with local districts to bring things back in for shared services like transportation. I know we look at shared services already, but there's got to be bigger structural things that can help us in the long term. It may also require having difficult but necessary conversations about our biggest cost drivers, including compensation and staffing models, in a way that is strategic and sustainable over the long term. These are not easy decisions. We don't envy any of the positions you're in right now. But the scale of the problem demands something more structural and forward-looking, not just incremental changes. I believe that level of strategic planning is happening, but it's not always being made clear to those of us on the other side watching and what's presented to the public. Our group desperately has wanted to be involved and identify and help explore those long-term changes that could help us structurally. It's why we've continued and will continue to advocate for a community and budget advisory committee that can go line by line and develop community-based recommendations to help solve this broader problem in the long term. Our community is engaged, we're paying attention, and we're ready to be part of these conversations. We appreciate the steps you've
Thank you,
taken
Ms.
so
East.
far, and we look forward to working in the future.
Will Donho, 84 Cobain Terrace. I'm here with the West Orange Parents for Education as well. Over the past year, our community has organized, analyzed, and advocated because informed caregivers are essential partners in protecting our schools. What is true is what's been stated here tonight is that this is mostly a problem in Trenton. The state aid formula assumes that local funds grow faster than the 2% levy cap allows us to raise. That gap compounds every year. We know it, you know it, and we will keep fighting to update it, including next month when we meet with Assemblywoman Begoli on the Assembly Education Committee. Superintendent Moore, your letter this week was helpful given the scope of the issues the district faces, and your comments tonight were helpful as well. And the budget sessions Ms. Flowers and her team provided were generally transparent and informative. And the presentation tonight was also a vast improvement over what we experienced last year. So I appreciate all that. I know how much work that went into all of that. But let's make no mistake, a budget gap of this order of magnitude is a 4-alarm fire problem. Having spent an embarrassing amount of time analyzing the budget numbers, 4 main levers we have control over stand out to me when we consider the budget crisis in the near term. As uncomfortable as it is, and I agree with you on the equity issue, transportation is something that we must begin to consider. West Orange spends over $15 million on busing more per student than comparable Essex County districts. Other neighboring districts have unfortunately already had to consider subscription busing and courtesy busing cuts. And it's something that we need to now consider ourselves. We need a long-term plan for athletics, arts, and extracurriculars, as you mentioned in the letter. This crisis is ongoing. I would add that the annual uncertainty is its own harm. We need a sustainability plan for those programs, including an honest look at less popular offerings and pay to participate models with hardship waivers so no student is priced out. Third, the letter was excellent, this presentation was excellent, but I promise you it will not reach everyone out there in the community tonight. We need to continue to advertise more of this information before cuts are made, before anything is finalized. I would recommend releasing a public list of the specific programs under consideration and give the community the chance to weigh in while there's still time to matter. And fourth, I continue to advocate for a community budget advocacy committee. With this issue continuing for the foreseeable future, the structure we leave up to you, but caregivers, residents, and educators should be brought together to review options and submit recommendations before decisions are made. This may not work this year, but it's something that we just have to foresee for the future years. Other districts have done this. It builds trust, services, ideas, and transforms this from something that happens to our community into something we do together. We know the board cannot fix what's happening in Trenton. We're working on that as best as we can, but you can lead here and we are ready to be your partners. Thank you.
Larry Weintraub, 76 Cobain Terrace. I'm also here with the West Orange Parents for Education. And I think first I want to thank all of you for all of the work that you're doing and the efforts that you're making to communicate the reality that we all face. It is not easy. That said, we need to make sure that all the options available to the community are out for discussion. At the last BOE meeting, President Rock, you challenged me to solve the healthcare cost crisis that is plaguing our country and ultimately our school budget. I think I may have found a solution. New Jersey Statute Chapter 18A 7F3D Paragraph 1 discusses how much the school tax levy can be increased. The allowable adjustment to the tax levy for increases in healthcare cost equals the portion of the actual increase in healthcare costs that exceeds 2% of the total costs in the previous year. That means we are allowed to increase the tax levy more than 2% to cover these additional healthcare costs. This option was also available last year, but not offered to the community or discussed publicly. This option is also available to every district in the state, unless there's one that has had a less than 2% rise in healthcare costs, and I'd be shocked to find one. South Orange Maplewood School District has already announced in a letter from their superintendent that they intend to use this provision. By my calculation, and it's based on the numbers that we had from January, so they may have changed slightly. Based on our expected insurance increases, we would be permitted to raise approximately $5.5 million additional dollars, or another 3.4% on the tax levy. Raising this additional $5.5 million permitted due to our insurance costs would mean a tax raise of approximately $535 per year per household on the average home in West Orange, or about $335 more than the standard 2% rise. If you're someone over 65 who makes less than $250,000 a year, the state will cover that increase through the State New Jersey program. So it is no additional burden to seniors in our district. We should accept that state property tax relief for the benefit of our community. Is that a reasonable price to pay to keep our schools great? I believe yes. Others may disagree, and that's fine. But all options should be on the table given the level of crisis we're facing. Let's have the discussion openly and make the choice. We're asking to give the community a real voice in making tough choices. It benefits everyone, the administration, the teachers, the students, the caregivers, and the community. There are surely other unspoken or innovative ideas out here in the community. Please open the details of the discussion to let us in so that we can be a part of the choices before they are made. Thank you.
Hi, Abby Fogel, 138 Forest Hill Road. First, I want to start by just thanking all of you for the work that you've put in. I personally managed through some of these challenges myself at my job, and I wouldn't wish your position on my worst enemy. So thank you so much for your work. I'm here tonight with West Orange Parents for Education. I joined the group just after its creation last year in response to the concerns around the budget deficit and the lack of sharing of information with the community at large. Again, the concerns. And I am proud to say that since then, I have become a much more informed citizen, partially from the research done by our group and partially a good portion from the sessions led by Ms. Flowers earlier this year. I truly appreciate the time and effort she and her team put in to ensure that the request for more understanding of the district's budget process was answered. I also deeply appreciate the presentation this evening and the specifics revealed both in the numbers and the personal values that drive some of the decisions. While WOPE has centered our advocacy efforts of late at the state level and will continue to do so, it is imperative that our local representatives and district administration understand that we know that they also have a part to play in fixing this long term. My ask tonight is that you continue to expand your communication and engagement efforts. Our neighboring districts have publicly been discussing this eventuality since the beginning of the school year. For West Orange, we received our first letter just days ago. SOMA has announced 2 town halls focused specifically on conversation related to the budget in April. We have received a link to a survey. Again, I don't mean to discredit the outreach and engagement efforts you all have done recently, but rather ask for some more so your efforts don't get lost in the ether of information we all are inundated with. I am aware that the opportunities to show up this year have not been well attended, specifically because I was one of the people who was there. But my experience is not that it is because people do not care. Wilp's petition to the state has received over 600 signatures from West Orange residents and teachers to address the way Trenton determines school funding. Our fellow West Orange citizens care very much, and if there was more communication about opportunities to engage using all tools possible, so including social media, emails, PTA meetings, school information apps like Class Dojo, etc., then I believe there would be a stronger presence. I implore you to not give up on citizen engagement, but rather take our engagement as a sign that more people want in and need better avenues for knowing opportunities to do so. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Erica Janetta at 64 Burnett Terrace and a fellow mom at Gregory Elementary. Just a couple of thoughts. I am not as well versed as the parents that organize West Orange Parents for Education, and everything I've learned from them and that they've brought to light of the information you guys provide has been amazing. It's so helpful. I'm also a teacher at a private school in the area, and I remember learning in November that my students to a private school, their busing is paid for by public districts. And I was shocked. So many of the private schools in our area are holding $50 million to $100 million endowments. They have absolutely enough money to bus their own students. I know this is not a district decision, but I would implore the board, parents, the community to put pressure on the state, wherever the law lies, to change this and put the onus on private schools to bus their own students. I would also ask, is there opportunities for parent volunteering? Where can we alleviate staff shortages? Where can we help alleviate all of the extra pulls that happen on teachers before school and after school and at lunch and in the hall monitoring, that if they're going to be experiencing so much pressure with higher class sizes, where can parents volunteer time, and encouraging our schools to open their doors to parents more. I heard the comments on this pay for play busing. Are there models out there like we have for our lunches where it is income based, where we have busing that is paid for by the families that can afford it, and maybe it is reduced for students and free for others as needed? I know that other districts have looked and had successful fundraising programs by parents. How can the community members that have the ability and have the means get these funds into our schools? On an aside, as a dual Canadian American citizen, I would just like to point out that my best friends in Canada are not having to have these conversations at their Board of Education meetings because their healthcare costs are not going up 30 or 13% every year, right? That is a separate conversation. So I would implore everybody to vote for policies and people that will take the strain of healthcare costs off of our schools. And there, I would just like to say there's no replacement for class size and how our kids experience their education. Thank you.
Tony Edelstein, 50 Davy Drive, teacher at the high school. So we've heard the proposal for payment for sports and busing is off the table in the name of equity, but that confuses equality with equity. Equality is treating everyone the same, but equity is giving everyone exactly what they need. Just a simple example, everyone gets a seat in the theater, that's equality, but equity means someone who needs a booster seat gets it. I urge you to consider imposing fees for sports and busing on families that can afford it. Thank you.
Matt Dragon, 13 Sheridan Avenue. My daughter's an 8th grader at Roosevelt. As Mr. Stevenson mentioned, this is really a revenue problem. I don't think any of you want to cut services, teachers, or staff. So this is a revenue problem. And I appreciate hearing that we have reached out to the state to try to address that revenue shortage. But I also know that several members of the board have connections to our state representatives. Other communities facing similar issues over the last several years have successfully rallied their electeds to get additional funding to help bridge these sorts of gaps. So can each of you sit here tonight and tell us you've made all those calls, written all those letters, nagged and poked our LD27 reps at every event? And if the answer is yes, what can we as parents do? What connections can you make for us? Our schools are the town's long-term investment. Certainly our schools are investments in our students, but it's also an investment in our teachers, staff, and administrators. And while our students are resilient and many would fully recover from a one-year bump in class sizes or 1 year without an extracurricular, our teachers, staff, and administrators won't. They'll rightfully move on, needing to support their own families. And that creates an even larger crisis in years to come when maybe we've helped fix the revenue problem, but a few years too late. Thank you.
Good evening, Mark Legatic, teacher at Gregory and Mount Pleasant Elementary School, resident at 12 Fairway Drive in West Orange. I just wanted to acknowledge all the hard work and respect that the board has put in, and Mr. Moore and Ms. Flowers on the preliminary budget. Certainly, a lot of consideration is being taken place into how we can improve and continue to maintain our district. One thing that I would like to ask as a resident and also an employee of the district is to continue to also work with us, the teaching staff, to respect the work that we're doing despite all the heavy changes that are happening as well. As a union rep in my building, I'm watching veteran teachers who have always been the pinnacle of the perfect teachers you would want in an elementary school struggle this year with class sizes exceeding 25 and 26 and 27. Trying their best to keep students on task while maintain all the high level of education that they're known for, and they're struggling. So knowing that, just be aware that we have shining staff and that they're doing their best, but they're going to need your support in more ways than just the visible support and the numbers and this and that. I also know that heavy are the heads of the people wearing the crowns that have to deal administratively with this. I watch our administrators work tirelessly to answer emails, continue to establish connections with parents while also support their staff members. And there's simply not enough time in the day or hands for them to do all the work, and they are doing their best. I also would like to have you guys just keep in mind as well that there are a lot of people that, like myself, helping to coach and mentor a lot of young teachers, outstanding teachers, people that we would want to remain here for a long time, knowing that they have to start looking for jobs or unsure if they're going to be here next year. And they still continue to come to work every day, put on a brave face, and be really, really great examples and model adults for our students. And we just want to let you know that the work continues in the buildings, in the trenches. And sometimes it's hard to see when you're not in the buildings all the time. Although, Mr. Moore, we do see you. You are visible, but sometimes, from within the trenches, just know we are putting on our brave faces. We know that we are in a situation where we have to put up our bootstraps and almost be like the generation 100 years ago, dealing through some tough financial times. So we are here with you. We support you. We know there are tough challenges ahead. Please continue to support us and know that we're doing the best we can every day, day in, day out, to be the strongest and best for our students. Thank you.
Hi, Katie Witzig, 49 Manger Road. I just wanted to say that I'm sad for the fact that this is the first reading and that, at least I'm getting the impression from your first comments, that there's already people bashing, making negative comments, etc. I haven't seen a lot of it yet, but it's sad that it just got released and that's already, for some people, that's the attitude that they've already taken. So that's a whole separate story. That made me sad. I do have a question, actually. So based on the numbers, and I did a little quick math, 7,107 students divided by $220,000 or $220 million budget. It's about $31,000 a student. I'm just wondering how that compares to other districts. I'm just curious. I did a quick Google and I couldn't find it, but maybe you guys obviously know more than I do. So that was one thing I wanted to say. Also, the presentations that you guys did earlier in the year, I feel about finances that came up out of last year. I learned so much from them. And the disappointing part of that was that there were only 25 people in the room. And I have to say, many of them are here. And that's, I think, one of the hardest things for me as a parent who is involved, who keeps up. If I can't get here, I'm watching the videos, recordings, and I feel like I know what's going on in the district. The sad part for me is now that a budget has come out and there are going to be cuts, that's when I'm sure the next meeting is going to be a full house. When you've given us opportunities, I think at the last meeting, I was shocked that there was a survey in the strategic plan and that there were like only 36 parents that contributed. But there's going to be 10 times that are going to come out when you say you're going to cut a program. Even the letter, there's the Google at the bottom. I think it's at the bottom, and I think maybe next time, maybe at the top. I don't know. But the fact that it was there to try to get interest, I don't know if there's a way to get more people involved. Because I just feel like the people are going to come out when they have something to complain about instead of trying to be well informed, which is what your finance workshops did, that I really hope you continue next year, and maybe 25 people times 2 will show up next time, because I really learned a lot. So I just wanted to put those few things out there. Thank you.
Is there anyone else for public comment? Thank you all. I'll let Mr. Moore answer some questions first, and then we'll have some comments if the board wants to.
Okay. First, I'll go backwards. I just want to thank Mark for his comment. Mark's a great teacher. He teaches instrumental for us. But he's right. There are some great teachers doing some good work, and I don't want this difficult time to outshine that, Mark. So thank you. You're right. And what's great about our teachers is the resilience during this time. And, you know, I would like to think the same for the administrators. It's the resilience and the commitment. I'm going to work a little bit backwards. When we talk about, I get it, town halls or surveys or whatever, I prefer written information. I use the surveys. When you write out your thoughts, we then look at it as a team and we see how that fits within some of our vision and ways in which we can work. So those surveys aren't light. They're important and they're expected. Reality, a lot of people do not fill out the surveys. Reality, a lot of people don't show up to meetings. And one, I have a family. I'd like to be home sometimes. I'm out a lot. And I do want to hear from the community or our staff, but I do prefer you to write that in a survey and put your name to it and your address or whatever may be the case, so that we really have substance behind your comment, not just showing up at a mic, making a comment. Maybe at that time it deserves an applause. Great. I don't have a problem with it, but I want it to be remembered. So I ask you to write in those surveys. They're important. They're not light, and they're just another way of doing it. I may not be the same as another superintendent somewhere else that wants to hold a town hall and so forth, but I am willing to hear from you and hear from you in a substantive way with surveys. I just want to talk a little bit about presentations and, you know, the thought of it being incremental. Please use incremental to look more like well thought out. This is not an easy choice. So yes, we take our time and we go step by step by step. And some of the movements, if you look at the budget where I tried to take it from we as a team tried to take it from other areas, such as, you know, capital or from transportation, so that we could first initially not lose our staff, is because, yeah, part of us is hoping that the formula changed at the state level. And so we worked incrementally so that we're able to try to sustain this as much as we possibly can. So instead of incremental being, you know, not like, you know, not transparent or slow moving, it's more like step by step and thought out. So when we're talking about cuts or people's jobs, yes, I'm incremental because I'm cautious about how we go about that process. So incremental, I would like you to think more like thought out and how it's thought out. In terms of, I just wanted to answer Deb's question about granular versus a wide view. So I know our Deb Cohn's wonderful teacher. She teaches photography here at the high school, and I want to make sure and address her question. There's, you know, we did learn a lot from the first time because this is only my third year of being a superintendent, so it's been quite young. I feel like I've been here 10 years, but it's my third. And within that, of course, we picked up every time we've gone through this. So far, for 3 years, we've been going through it. We pick up a little bit more and do a little bit better. And I'm glad that people see that. And we'll work with you and try to do that. We're going to continue our workshops. We thought that was successful. We'll continue to do that. But, you know, many of these, when we put something out letter-wise or even a presentation, preliminary's key word there. Why preliminary? These, again, once again, this is not light. This is people's jobs. So if things change and shift, then that looks wishy-washy, or why would you do that? Why won't you? So again, thought out. Right now, we start with the preliminary because we want to give you the overview on where we see it. Do we have all the granular? We do not. Because the granular isn't just, hey, let's just take these teachers. The granular consists of an audit. It consists of looking at enrollment. It consists of looking at metrics. It consists of, and by the way, a lot of these, to my parent groups, a lot of this stuff has human resource implications to it. So therefore, there's reason why we hold it close to the vest. Secondly, while I'm saying this to you, is what things shift and change based on certification. And for many of us, we like to see what other certifications teachers have, or paras or others that have, so that we can figure a job somewhere else where we have a loss. So to be granular so early in the process would, to me, would feel like we're not being, let's say, we're not being prudent in our work. This work and these decisions take time. It takes an effort. It takes looking at 3 and 4 times. We actually send it to the attorneys to make sure everything lines up the way they should before we want to make any sort of granular presentation, because we do understand that these are jobs. This is attached to emotion, and we want to make sure everyone feels safe in the process. But as we go through that process, for us not to take such detailed looks at every decision that we make, to me, that falls short. We need to look at every decision. We have to do it in this manner. I try to give you the information where I'm at with it and at this present time. But I don't want to leave you lost. That's why I put words in there like minimum, or this is what we have. So I want that understanding that these decisions and the way we go about it does take time, but it's because our vetting process takes time. Let me see if I can answer a few things. Our parents, in terms of parent volunteers, it's not that we absolutely appreciate parent volunteers. Right this minute, we're preoccupied with the budget and our staffing situation. But we do appreciate parent volunteers, but we can't rely on parent volunteers, as that is not an everyday occurrence. Parents have lives. They're going to do things that maybe they can fill in the gap once in a while. The other thing is parents, now, we need to make sure we vet you. We take a look at your background. You're going to be around many different people. The other thing is, are you going to be a parent in a school in which your kid is there? And then how does that impact us? And we've had experiences that we've learned from where parents have kids in the same building that they're volunteering. And unfortunately, sometimes that doesn't always gel. So again, I am happy that our parent and our Canadian friend said that you're willing to volunteer, and I appreciate that. It's probably because you're Canadian. I'm only kidding. I'm kidding. I had to break it. It was just too intense. This has been too intense. So I do appreciate you, and I don't want you to think we're knocking that off. I just want to tell you that it's not just a 1-2 step. There's steps to entering into that and vetting that goes along with that. And I believe there was a special education services and bringing them back. We have a new special education director in Dr. Ressa. He's absolutely terrific, but but I have to say, Connie Salambino, who was the director, that has been our goal because we cannot afford to send kids in out of district placements. That has really, well, one, that's unexpected budget expenditures, but besides that, they're in 6 figures. So it's not a light thing. So we absolutely have already started on that process of trying to bring things back in government. However, I say that because I say to my parents who do need out of district placements, when a child has a need that is above what we can do, we do see the need to do that, because we understand that some schools specialize. But I will tell you, we are so working on it that we have students with medical needs, which need a medical staff member, a specialist, whether a nurse or a practitioner with them in class every day. And we have maintained them in class and have worked with doing that. And that's not exactly light either. It's expensive, but it is not as expensive as actually sending that student outside. And the last part to that is we're not in a business of trying to send our students away from us. We're trying to keep our students included. So we don't have an issue with working from that end, but we'll continue to do so. And I hate to end on this, but class sizes, I think Mark said it best. I think, I believe Josh said it too. Yeah, there's studies. I understand that, and that is always in consideration. I do think that as we go through this process, there may be a mathematical equation that cannot match up, because if we have less staff, the students will still have to be serviced, and I don't want to make a promise that class sizes won't increase when we're dealing with every decision's a dollar. I will tell you that may be a reality, but I don't think the words of Josh or Mark doesn't fall flat on, and it's not on deaf ears. We do hear it. Where we can, we'll try, but I don't want to make promises that I can't deliver. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. General comments were pretty extensive. Just touch on 4 specific issues a couple people raised, add a little context. One of Mr. Weintraub, I give you credit for responding to the directions I gave you. I should have been a little more clear in the prompt for my assignment, which was how to solve the increasing cost of healthcare. But it's a good, I mean, really it is illustrative of how we've dealt with this problem before, and it costs what it costs, and we're going to fight over who pays. And so for the last 15 years, throughout the state and throughout state law, at one point it was the district, and then there was arguments about how much employees should pay, and there was that cost sharing, and then there's how much should the taxpayer pay and an additional tax levy. So like that's just moving the cost around, but that doesn't solve the problem of if the costs go up, right? That's the crux of the issue. But good try. I'll look forward to the revisions of your assignment at our next meeting. Another topic a couple people brought up was subscription busing. So just want to add a little context here and think about, so there's different kind of levels of busing. So you got on the one hand, the required busing, people that live remote from their schools, 2 miles or 2.5 miles, depending on how old they are. Some students have an IEP that requires them to be bused. So we have to bus these students. And then at the bottom, you could potentially have courtesy busing where, a district decides that someone lives between 1 and 2 miles and we're going to provide busing. But that's not the kind of busing that we provide to those non-required students. Ours are all the mid-tier, which is hazardous routes. Essentially, we've looked at these kids and said that, yes, they live less than the required distance. They're less than 2 miles away, but their route to school is not safe because they either don't have a sidewalk or they have to cross a highway. There's no crosswalk there. So we're not, if we were providing courtesy busing across the board, it might be a different conversation of these kids don't really need the busing. And so if you make that analysis, it might be worth it. But to require a parent to pay for busing for a kid who doesn't have a safe route to school, right? That to me, just that analysis doesn't make sense. Again, in our context, I don't think that's a solution. Now, long term, that is a question of how can we improve those routes, right? If we work with the county to add more crosswalks, and there is a grant that the township has gotten through the state, the Safe Routes to Schools program that involved partnership with the district, that's going to add some crosswalks and things throughout a lot of different neighborhoods. So that could potentially reduce the amount of hazardous routes, right? There are things that could happen over the next few years that could make that, could allow us to reduce the number of kids who are required to be bused in those circumstances. But from this year to next year, we can't just say, oh, right, they need to get to school. And until we can make that route safe, we still have to provide them with, or we've made the decision that we think is the right thing to do to provide them with busing in that circumstance. Donations, right? This always comes up as a common topic. If we had $100 million endowment, right, that would solve part of our problem. But basic endowment math is you take whatever you got, you can spend about 5% of that, give or take, to put into the budget. So if we had $100 million endowment, that'd give us $5 million, plug that into the operating budget. That'd be nice that it solved part of the problem, but that doesn't solve the problem long term. I'd also ask the question of how do you get to $100 million endowment, right? That's not something that, maybe if we've been fundraising for 100 years from alumni that are very wealthy, you could do that. If you're a, long-term private school that has very wealthy alumni, to get from here to there in any reasonable amount of time in West Orange, I think is unrealistic. I think where donations could be helpful and successful is to target those either at the PTA, which can support programs in the schools, or to target those to our booster parents who work with our performing arts groups, who work with our sports, because to the extent that parents with means can supplement those programs, it does make it easier for us to provide kind of the base level of program for all those activities, but then the additional things can be supplemented by the parents that have the means to do that. And we do have some great booster programs that help with that. So I think those are places you can plug in and support. But at the end of the day, donations are not going to fill, the size of budget gap that we have on an operational level to prevent the need to reduce positions. And lastly, our legislative team, I have been in contact with all three of them repeatedly. I think I've seen all three of them in the last 2 weeks or so. They're probably getting tired of seeing me at events and saying, hey, what are we doing about state funding? I will continue to call them. I will continue to nag them. I wouldn't be optimistic that there's any great solution in the works for this year. The word on the street in Trenton is that the budget itself is going to be kind of tight, that the governor said, here's what it is. And usually legislators go and say, well, I need this, 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 and this for my constituents. And then they work out a few deals and some money gets spent around. Sounds like the governor doesn't want to do that. Sounds like some of the legislators do. I think at the end of the day, the best case is that we can secure some additional funding for some specific projects. So we have some capital improvements, maybe we get some additional funding for something targeted like that. But the likelihood of any overhaul of school finance in the next 6 months through this state budget, I think the possibility of that is zero. And really, we got to continue the conversation for the long term about how do we fix this moving forward. So that'll I think end my comments. Anything from Mr. Ifker?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I did not speak when everyone else spoke because I thought Mr. Stevenson did a great job summarizing. I thought it was very clear, and I didn't want to add anything. I didn't want to comment if I couldn't add anything. I do want to make a few points with respect to the public comments that were made. So first of all, I appreciate the sort of back and forth. It's very civil. It's very nice. It's an improvement from the past. We're not going to agree on everything for sure, but I think it's going in the right direction this year. To begin with, I want to commend Mr. Moore for not blaming previous superintendents and boards. That is the easiest, most immature thing that I hear. We know that we have contracts that predate us. We weren't here. Nothing we can do about that. We have expenses that are built in. Nothing we can do. We have buildings that are 100 years old. Who are we going to blame? The grown-up thing, which is what we're doing, which is what Mr. Moore is doing, is saying, I'm responsible. It's my job. I'm not going to blame anybody. So I just wanted to mention, I appreciate that. Some of the problems here have to do with the fact that there's no right answer and there's no definite point of view. I have people coming to me saying, I'm a senior citizen. You guys got more money from the state this year. Enough with the schools. How about helping me so I can stay in town? And then you have people who want to raise taxes on the other end. I don't agree with either of those. It's not an easy conversation to have, but we're talking about 70 cuts here. And now somebody wants us to vote to cut more to keep the property taxes where they are. That's not realistic. So I can't support that. On the other hand, several people believe that the problem here is the budget formula process. And I don't know, some people think that it's the formula. Some people think it's because we want to be able to tax at a higher rate. I'm not for that. I'll just tell you right now. And I know I'm not going to mention names, but I'm not alone on the board when I say we're taxed enough. And I would not vote for more taxes, referendum to get more taxes. I wouldn't do that. As far as the unjust state funding, whether it's just or unjust, it's not the state. It's the governor, it's the assembly, and it's the Senate. Our efforts, I mean, talking to us about how we're going to survive is important, but really the energy and enthusiasm has to go towards the people in office in Trenton. Otherwise, we're just spinning our wheels here a little bit. As far as transparency, I think that word is being overused a little bit. There's a reason that other townships and cities and boards of ed look to us in terms of a role model as to how you handle your business. Mr. Moore, I guess, is too modest to bring it up, but I know Montclair is learning from us. I think it's West Essex. I don't know where else, but there's a reason that they're looking and see what the superintendent does, the central office, and what our Board of Education does. So I think we're okay as far as transparent. Can always get better. We're better now than we were last year. I give a lot of credit to the parent organization who gently and sometimes not so gently pushed and said, we want meetings, we want me. And I don't really care if people don't show up. People are busy. I totally get that. It's not for us to say they're not showing up, we're not doing it. It's for us to respond to the request and the needs. And if people can't make the time to make it, that's none of my business. People are doing the best they can, I'm sure. The idea that we're going to start cutting clubs and activities, I mean, first of all, we're nibbling around the edges here. If 70% of the budget is from salaries and benefits, we're going to cut some club that's going to save $1,000. I'm still getting killed for all the support I gave to keep the Mandarin Club last year. I don't know what's going to happen with that this year, but I mean, we really have to address the big items here. I think, I learned a lot. Mr. Rock taught us all, certainly myself, about the health care situation. And I think we're in a better position than most because of that. And I appreciate his leadership on that. I also want to address our Canadian friend. I have some intimate knowledge of that system, and there was more than a few things we could learn from them. I think that's about it. But if we're looking towards fees and increase our ability to tax over the 2%, 2.5%, and referendums to do so, I think you're going to find a lot of resistance. So I just want to let you know that's the case. And I'm not looking forward to the next couple of months, but we'll do what we have to do because we all want to stay here. You know, I'm recently reelected, and I heard every time I went out on the streets, which was every day, I'm moving. I heard from one person every time, I'm moving. I'm moving out of the township. I'm moving out of West Orange. I'm moving out of Essex County, or I'm moving out of New Jersey because they can't take it anymore. So that, as we have the dual responsibility that was brought up before, the students and the people that pay for all of this. So it's a tough thing, but we're doing the best we can. Thank you.
Just a couple of quick points. Thank you, President Rock. Thank you, Mr. Ifker, for those comments. I think, Mr. Ifker, you hit it on the head with the not skirting around the big ticket items. And just for reference, and I have a couple of questions for Ms. Flowers. In 2003, the first budget that I voted on as a board member, I believe, 2023, was it 23? Or was it 22? Okay, 22, the big ticket items that Mr. Ifrick is talking about, salaries were at $101.3 million, 101.3. In 2025, they were 115.4. Last year, 111.6. And in Mr. Moore's proposed budget this year, a decrease of almost $8 million to 103.4. So when the slide says it's an increase of 3.5% to 4%, that is correct in terms of its impact on the budget line, but it may not color the entire story in terms of its impact to the overall budget. So when it's 50% of the budget and the number moves from $101 million to $111 million last year and being reduced this year, got to take that into account. Transportation costs in that 2002 budget were around $11 million. This year, they're almost approaching $18 million. This board has been very proactive in looking at costs. We moved into health insurance plans 2 years ago when we saw the writing on the wall in terms of costs. And so although we're only looking at about a 14% increase in health insurance, which seems really high, the reality is that, 17%, I'm sorry. I mean, the reality is in 2022, we paid $27.4 million for health insurance. In this year's budget, it's $40 million. So I say that to say, and again, we talk about reducing a bus route or having pay to play. That's not going to balance the budget. That's just not going to do it. And those two things should not be put in the same context, as I heard Mr. Ifker say that, correct? You can't say, let's make some parents pay to have their kids participate in the club, or let's make people pay for bus routing. I mean, I don't even know the percentage of students that actually bus, but I'm glad Mr. Rock and Mr. Moore made the point of hazardous routes, the ability to provide busing where necessary for kids, because those are real numbers. One of the speakers talked about stipends and the reduction of stipends. Well, the community may not know those stipends go to our teachers. They don't go to parents. They go to compensate teachers for their additional time to oversee clubs and participate with kids, and everyone appreciates that. And so when we talk about a reduction of clubs and activities for kids, and I don't know if the speaker's figures were correct, when you're only talking again about a couple of $100,000 in terms of a reduction in stipends if you got rid of meaningful and worthwhile clubs for kids, a couple of $100,000 are not the driver of the situation with the budget. It really is salaries, benefits, transportation, and healthcare. And lastly, just a couple of quick questions, because again, as I said earlier, we have to pass a budget within the finite time every year, but we also have to look long range at making investments in our buildings, right? And so part of our revenue here is also taking $4 million of our budgeted fund balance to fill that budget shortfall for this year. At the same time, taking that budgeted shortfall, we are reducing our reserves for catastrophic things, for Ms. Flowers, the reserves account for operating reserves.
We could do
Capital projects.
capital projects and maintenance reserves are the present reserves that we have.
So we're taking our reserve money to fill a budget gap, when in actuality, we're decreasing the reserves that the district probably needs, that auditors probably recommend we should have to fill gaps in a budget. And essentially we're expending out the safety and security of the district's financial health to fill a real time budget issue, that money won't be there in the future if something catastrophic happens. And lastly, one of the speakers spoke about the healthcare waiver for raising the cap. And so I think Ms. Flower said this, baked in that 2.5% proposed levy that the superintendent is asking the board to approve is a healthcare exception that is already in there. I don't know what it's not broken down in terms of the percentage of the healthcare exception versus the regular bank capped, but I think that is something that the district has already looked at, correct?
Yes, that is correct. We do have the allowance this year. This year, based on the calculations, we are eligible for a healthcare adjustment. We are submitting the budget with a recommendation of almost $800,000, $797,000, which allows us to go up to the 2.5%. Before we go, now we do have approximately another 3.9 that will now roll into banked cap.
And if I have the figures correct, that 2.5 that we're being asked to approve, I think is the second highest tax levy that we've approved in the last several years. I think there was a 2.66
Right.
a couple of years ago. And so again, this duly elected board by the citizens of West Orange come here to look at budget numbers and to try to provide the best education for kids. And I know other towns may be doing things. Again, as I said earlier, we have to own what we own, but this board is being asked to approve a tax levy that is 2.5%. Beyond even the forlorn conclusion that we would approve a 2% increase in taxes. And now with the healthcare exception of the existing bank cap that's there, we're going to be at 2.5%.
That's correct.
And so at one of the speaker's recommendation, if you combine those two, as he had suggested, and not sure whether or not there's a fair read on the statute that he cited, that would mean a tax levy of almost 6% to the citizens of West Orange. That would be a non-starter for me. Speaking for myself as a board member, again, our community continues to support the schools up into the tax levy. I've voted every year for an increase of that 2% with some variance with the bank cap. And I'm not willing to support any tax increase that is beyond where we are at 2.5%.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. We will move on to our resolutions. May I have a motion to approve the personnel items, A1 through A5?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ivker. I want to congratulate the following retirees: Patricia Aldworth, a teacher at West Orange High School, for her 20 years of service; Dawn Brennan, an administrative assistant in Gregory Elementary School for her 26 years of service. Antonio Fernandez Batista, head custodian at West Orange Early Childhood Learning Center for his 18 years of service. Leonidas Perez, a custodian at West Orange High School for his 17 years of service. And Susan Secente, an administrative assistant at West Orange High School for her 10 years of service. Thank you all for your service to the West Orange students and our school community. Best wishes to you on behalf of the Board of Education, and welcome to the club where every day is Saturday. Is there any discussion on personnel? Seeing none?
No. No.
Hearing none, Ms. Flowers, take the roll, please.
Mr. Ifker?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes. Don't know what.
President Rock?
Yes.
Thank you.
I may I have a motion to approve the curriculum and instruction items B1 through B4.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ifker. Any discussion?
So I'll insert it here. Don't know if I'll have the opportunity. Things may move really fast. I don't want to miss it. I was not in attendance at the last board meeting, but I wanted to commend the Principal Kimia Jackson, Ms. Joy Burnett, Miss Roy for their participation in the Amistad competition for North Jersey. My son, as a fourth grader at Redwood, participated in that. It was great to see all the presentations from all the schools in North Jersey. One of our fourth grade teams did win. And so congratulations to those children who won that competition. As you know, Amistad is mandated for curriculum in our schools. Hopefully, Redwood was the only school that participated of our elementary schools in the competition. Hopefully more schools will participate in the future, but kudos to Principal Jackson and her team and to those children and families who took the time to participate in that very important presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Flowers, please take the roll.
Mr. Ifker?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
President Rock?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, may I have a motion to approve the finance items C, special services items A1, and business office items B1 through 15?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ifker. Any discussion? No. I think we've discussed this at quite a length today. So just again, thank you, Mr. Moore, for your work on this budget. We appreciate your work. We look forward to the final budget in May that we'll present and any updates we get before then. But in the meantime, I fully support you and your team, and again, appreciate all the work that you put into this. Ms. Flowers, would you please take the roll call?
Mr. Ifker?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
President Rock?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Finally, may I have a motion to approve reports items D1 through 2?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ifker. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Flowers, please take the roll.
Mr. Ifker?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
President Rock?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much to all of my board colleagues. Next up, we will have petitions and hearings of citizens for any agenda or non-agenda items that you wish to discuss. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Please approach the podium at this time and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Joy Burnett, 63 Pilot Place, and I'm a resident and a teacher at Redwood School, 21 years in the district. I just wanted to say two things. The first thing is Mr. Stevenson made reference to the Amistad competition. I hope you will be pleased to find out I've already talked to Mr. Figueredo, and next year I will present professional development for all of the elementary schools on the program so that more teachers can bring the program to their school. And what's wonderful is that Amistad actually will pay the teacher that starts the program. So that is an incentive. They pay you a stipend. And so hopefully more teachers will be willing to get involved. The other thing I just wanted to put on the record as a resident in town, I don't know that a lot of our citizens realize that teachers, staff
administrators, that we are all also paying quite substantially into healthcare. As I sit with my colleagues today, we all kind of, bitterly reminisce, and as we this tax season are looking back over years and years of pay stubs, we are realizing that our take-home pay is similar to what it might have been, 10 years ago, 8 years ago. We are seeing the same things. So I just want to let residents know, as a resident myself, I hear people say teacher salaries, but we are also feeling the pinch of the health insurance with the shared cost that we are paying as well. So I just wanted to put that on the record so that people can keep that in the front of their minds, that we are all sharing these costs together.
Good evening again. Tony Edelstein, 50 Davy Drive, teacher at the high school for 19 years. I know it's a moot point, but I still want to publicly express the collective anger of the staff at the district's decision to dock people a full day's pay if they're absent on Monday, March 30th, the makeup snow day. When the district faced the same issue in 2014 and 2018, the common sense, compassionate, compromise solution was that employees would be allowed to use a personal day and would be charged the cost of a substitute. Hence, the district would be financially whole. But that compromise was reached under different administrations. The current administration has chosen to disregard those precedents and instead punish employees who have previously scheduled vacations and travel plans. As I said in the email I sent to the superintendent, the HR director, and each board member on March 6th, this decision is unnecessary, punitive, and mean-spirited. I don't know if it was made out of simple callous disregard for employees' personal circumstances, or to assert the power the administration has over employees, or to squeeze out a few dollars to help close the budget deficit. But whatever the motivation, the result is an angry and demoralized staff. I would think that given the current state of the budget, the administration will want to foster goodwill among the staff to encourage cooperation as we face serious budgetary issues. But I imagine now the staff will be much less inclined to go the extra mile beyond their contractual obligations. The repeated claims the administration sends out that we are all a family ring hollow in light of this misguided decision. Thank you.
Deb Cohen, 4 Hoyt Street, teacher at the high school for 26 years. Just a couple of things. I'm the one that made the comment about the stipends. I'm well aware. I have received stipends. I'm not looking to take money out of anybody's pocket. I'm just asking, has it been looked at? Have there been K to 12? And this is where I get frustrated. Again, I don't expect you to say 7 social studies teachers and 2 elementary school teachers or whatever the numbers are, because that would create even more chaos. I'm looking for what else was looked at other than was on that slide. And the little things, they add up. There's lots of little things that can add up. So I just want that to keep in mind. And then Hayden, I'm just going to ask again, you said in that letter, which was helpful, about athletics and visual and performing arts. And I can tell you, at least at the high school, everybody wants to know what that means. And we didn't get an answer. I don't know if you can give an answer, but that's what I'm looking at.
Max Grossman, 15 Allen Street. I've been a teacher here for 11 years. I also went to this school district. I found my passion in woodworking, which is what I teach. And I commend your efforts. This is now the 3rd year of budget cuts, of trying to be strategic. I didn't realize that we could raise taxes a little bit more than that 2.5%. I pay taxes in this town. I'm feeling the pinch, just like everyone else, but I would really encourage you, if you maybe not go up the whole way, but anything helps to keep the diversity in this town of all those clubs and activities and classes where our students find their passion. I know it's not really our fault that the health insurance thing goes up every year. Like others have mentioned, my paychecks look about the same as they did almost 10 years ago, because other costs go up. But we need to deal with what we were given. So thank you.
Is there anyone else for public comment? Okay, that'll end public comment.
Okay.
Mr. Moore.
Yeah. So I know that let's first address what I call equity, however it'll be defined. We use the contract and we use language up front to understand what we will engage in if something happens. Myself, I lost the Monday myself because we have a written thing that's about a year out that says if the snow day occurs, this will happen. Now, when you're asking me to be discerning or use discretion, there are people that don't ask for anything and they just follow along with the written contract and the guidelines. Just like teachers expect us not to ask them to do something outside of the written verbiage in a contract. If you take umbrage to the fact that someone holds you to the contract in which you agreed to, and you've had ample amount of time to see that, then you're not asking me to, oh, well, you're being punitive. No, not punitive. No. I'm following what's written so that people that show up for their job because they decide to follow their contract or that what's written, they get the same treatment as people that are like, hey, give me a break. I want to catch a plane to something. Let me go. This and that. Doesn't work that way. If we all have if it's a bad moment, it's a bad moment for all of us, me included. So following the contract is the equity. That's the way I don't make a decision saying, oh, I'm going to give it to you, but I'm not going to give it to him. The way I use discernment is if a teacher has an emergency. If there's some discernment to be used, then I will use it. And I will use discretion at that point in time. But outside of that, it is a happy and professional, family or not, professional relationship. We don't have Thanksgiving dinner together. I get that. But we do have written information that guides us and how we as administrators can hold you accountable and how you as teachers can hold us accountable. So don't be upset because it was written there. Understand that it's a chance. Now, to our parents and students that had to give up their time because they understood the calendar read that way, fair to them too. So that's fair across the board. We all suffered on that one because of snow. Wasn't, no way I was like trying to be mean or punitive. I wish it didn't snow. If I could do the snow dance, I hate that call. That's one of the hardest calls to make, but can't do it. Snow came. So then I have to go back to what's written and how we can still service and have time for the kids. So when you're asking me, if you're judging me on how I maneuver my character, here, let me give it to you easily. I try to be as fair as possible. I use the written word to do that. And if someone comes to me in the union and say, well, this person has this issue or that person has that issue, and it's an emergency, then I go to the case by case, because that's fair to everyone employed here, not just some. So please, don't think I'm being punitive or mean. I'm just trying to be fair. That's that. In the case of, Deb, I understand what you're saying, and we do realize, and I think Mr. Stevens is saying, hey, you know what? We just need to know what's going to happen because you put that at the end. Well, what's going to happen is put everyone on alert at the end, including the athletic department and including our theater, our music, our arts. They have to all know that we will have to go to you if we need to go there and make adjustments. Do we want to? No, because I do believe that those activities actually fulfill the student experience. The student experience isn't just about being in the classroom. It's about learning the language of music. It's about understanding how to play on a team, how to get along through adversity. And those things are done through either music, choral sometimes, or football, or baseball, or basketball, all those things. So it all matters. So I didn't want to leave them out, and they should be on alert, because if we're going to be fair, all of it trickles. That's how we will be able to address this as equitable as possible. And thanks, Max. Max, a great woodshop teacher. I don't know what to tell him about the raise of taxes, but I do appreciate you, Max. And I think that woodshop's important. And to tell you the truth, Matt, let me say this about my classes like that. I'm a big protector of a lot of those classes as well, because I think you can't go wrong when you learn a life skill. And woodshop is a life skill that all of us can get something out of it. So those classes, they're very important. Max, I'm sorry, Max. Max is a great teacher, and he was once a student. I don't want to give my age away, but he was here when I was here. But I do appreciate him too. So I hope that answered everyone's questions.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Rivker?
Just briefly, I guess I'm speaking in support of Mr. Moore again. We hear that the little things add up. And then when Mr. Moore has to do something about one day of spring break, his motives are attacked. I don't like that. He's mean. He's this. He's that. Come on, you know Mr. Moore better than I do. Mean, I've never heard before. I just think that's really not fair. But we say things sometimes, and people aren't going to go the extra mile. I don't think you're helping yourself with this. I just think it's a bad situation. We all know it. Nobody likes it. We can't control the weather, and I think it's a kind of an unfair criticism. And I just wanted to make sure I was on the record saying that.
What you're saying is it's a PG show. We can't say what should be said in response to something said so ignorantly, but I think you said it sufficiently.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next board meeting will be held at 5:30 p.m. on Monday, April 20, 2026. This meeting will be held in the West Orange High School Library Media Center. We will not be going into executive session after the close of this meeting. There will be no further business discussed and no additional action will be taken. May I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. Our meeting is now adjourned. We wish you a good night.